start, go ahead.
My name's Dom Jones. I'm an MC, singer, songwriter, international songwriting competition winner, founder of Dom Empire, and during the day, I'm an IT analyst at Salesforce.
Hey, I'm KAILA Love, MC, a singer, and do a lot of stuff around hip-hop activism in the Bay.
Hi, my name is AGATRON. I'm a strutter, popper, all-styles dancer. I'm also a community organizer. I do a lot of all-female events and battles since about my first one, 2010. And just constantly working hard on creating all-female showcases and battles. I belong in 2 crews, Boogaloo, Roboting, and Strutting, and my own dance company. It's a female-based, all-female company, but we also invite men. We're all about Bonnie and Clyde and working together with men, not having, you know, just all women all the time. But anyways, our dance company is Iron Lotus, and we're gonna perform for you today, probably around 3:30.
Hey, what's up? My name is NILO. I'm originally from, I grew up in Sweden, and I just moved here like 4 years ago. So don't judge my accent if I have one. Originally, even before that, my family immigrated from Iran to Sweden, so when I think about hip-hop and stuff, that has a lot to do with my identity as an immigrant child growing up in Sweden. From there, I took it into, I grew up listening and being active in hip-hop culture in Gothenburg, Sweden. And from the time that I come over here, I've been involved in a lot of college hip-hop student organizations. One in Dance at College called 4 Elements of Hip Hop, and I'm also starting one at San Francisco State right now, together with another group of dope people. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? I'm DJ AGANA, con ganas. Let's see, I DJ, I teach the youth at the Rise Center, the Visual Arts Coordinator. I also am a part of a crew called the X Vandals, which is the original, very first graffiti crew from New York, and as well as being a part of the crew called TDK, originated here in Oakland, with Mike Dream. And I'm also a part of a collective called Few and Far Women, and we're all female mural graffiti crew. We're painting outside, and yeah, I see all the elements as connected and representing all of them together.
Peace everyone, I'm DJ DEEANDROID from the Bay Area, Vallejo, Daly City, now in San Jose, but I'm co-founder of Scratchpad with DJ Selski since 2003. We worked with KRS together. We've also part of the Peaches Lady DJ crew, started in 2009. Also collaborate with Deadly Venoms, and full-time mom to 2 beautiful girls, and yeah.
All right. We're gonna get right into it. So the way I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna ask questions and have all the panelists answer. And then if we have questions from the audience that they want to direct to individual panelists, we'll get into that, right? So first, I just want to know how hip hop has shaped you all as women, right? So what hip hop has to do with your development of womanhood. Whoever wants to start.
Okay, I grew up a tomboy, and then around high school, it was around the time that I was being told what it meant to be a woman, and that didn't really fit with my creative spirit. And so when I got into popping and roboting and theatrics and being expressive, it developed a better sense of identity of how I identified myself as a creative person. And at the time, I just didn't know that the scene that I was in was mostly a male-dominated scene, because it was created by mostly men. And later on, my teachers would be mostly men. But, so I identified with, also growing up with my brother and that kind of stuff, and his friends, I identified with that kind of ability of expression to be raw and powerful and strong. And to me, I guess maybe I wasn't so gender specified. I was more like androgynous when I was younger. And for me, hip hop allowed me to be whatever I wanted to be. It didn't really matter who I was, whether I was a man or a woman, or and it allowed me to identify with anybody. It didn't matter if they were a man or a woman. Like, as long as we're dancing in the same cipher, you can understand each other's language and each other's dancing. And it allowed me to connect on beyond, you know, so many things. Obviously, I'm white, and I met people in my neighborhood that were poppers, and they taught me. And that's how I came into the African-American dance form known as popping, that originated, you know, in the Bay and West Coast and stuff like that. So it allowed me to communicate, and there's this instant connection between people in hip-hop. They kind of understand, okay, well, we can start to have a conversation. You know, we can start to, you know, understand each other. And so that's how hip-hop shaped me as a woman, and also as just a human being, and wanting to be defined by the art form itself more than my gender. So that's it.
Thank you.
So hip hop was created as a form of resistance. That's the way a lot of historians tell it. So it's interesting being a woman in hip hop and resisting the misogynistic messages that come out of it. And so I think the way that I was shaped as a woman in hip hop is understanding it as a form of resistance and participating in it, resisting it at the same time.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just go a little bit to follow up on that, because I feel like being a woman in hip hop, in just that very essence, because it is a male-dominated industry, is a resistance. Just the very presence, because they're like, especially starting out, I would very rarely see other female MCs and ciphers. A lot of times I would be the only one. And so for me, hip hop was really the beginning of my empowerment as a woman, and being able to stand up for myself, and even like entering the battle scene. Like, I'm not really a battle rapper, but sometimes I just like be so pissed off at the patriarchy and it's all guys battling that I just like go up in there and just, you know, it's just like it drives me and it gives me that voice.
Thank you.
So, speaking on being that voice, I definitely recognize what everyone's saying and feel that, and I definitely feel like I have, you know, as a woman, you have a voice that nobody else can, you know, nobody else can tell your story like you're gonna tell it, and nobody else can speak on what's happened to you and your experiences. And growing up in hip hop has, you know, really helped me has taken me places I never thought I would go. Travel and connect with people that don't even speak the same language, yet you guys are family, and you guys are like, you know, speaking the same language, but not with words. So just crossing all barriers, borders, genders, everything, and just, you know, uniting as a family.
I'm not sure if I think about how hip hop has shaped me as a woman as much as it shaped me as an individual. I mean, being a woman is part of that, but I think for me it just came into play where, like similar to Agatha, where I was young, I didn't fit into a lot of the stereotypical forms of what a woman should be. I mean, I was very young, I wasn't even a woman yet, I was a little girl. But I mean, even back then it was like, you know, my mom didn't want me to wear Wu-Tang shirts like my brother did. But I feel like when I found hip hop culture, that kind of allowed me to reach past that and expand my identity into being an intersectional individual like I am. And I think that's part of what makes me really connect to the culture, is just shaping my own identity, whatever it might be, like being a woman, being, you know, something else, or being this and that. So yeah.
a major influence on my life. Like since '93, I found myself connected to hip hop in some way, and like I started off as like dancing, doing like hip hop dance routines, and being connected to the b-boy, b-girl scene in the Bay Area, and then over time, you know, I stepped away from it, came back to it in '97 after I saw The Visible, Scratch Pickles, Qbert Max Master Mike, and Shortcut. And you know, being Filipino American, there wasn't a lot of like Filipino people we could look up to, so that was something that spoke to me. And just hearing how they flip the music, and I was like, wow, you know, they're not just playing someone else's music, playing hip hop songs, like they're actually making their own songs. And at the time I was like playing flute, like, you know, in school and stuff like that. So it kind of opened my eyes like, hey, this is something I want to dig deeper in. And the more I dug deeper into hip hop, the more I found things about myself, learned about spirituality, and opened my eyes to more music. And it's kind of like I've learned like a hip hop consciousness, you know, like it's a frame of mind that comes with being a practitioner in hip hop. So it's a deep question. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you all. I can say really quickly, just speaking for myself, I think hip hop was one of the first spaces where I saw women being centered, again, early on, and having the courage and the fierceness to be in male-dominated spaces, and be, to some extent, celebrated, but also showing that, like the panelists were saying, there's always that pushback. So, because as soon as you step into that space, it's automatically an act of resistance. So I definitely feel that. The next question kind of ties into that, in terms of how women are treated or valued or devalued in hip hop. What do you see ways that women are valued in hip hop and ways that they're not, and possibly ways that you maybe in your work try to shift, you know, the way women are viewed in hip hop? I know that's a heavy question too, but
I'll start. I just wanted to say that the way that women are being treated in a negative way is not just done by, like we always sometimes point the fingers by men. I think it's also women, the way they treat themselves or they treat each other. And this is a huge conversation. I think that it's great that we're all here together, you know, talking. And this is needed. This is kind of like an active, affirmative action for women, that we're all here together. And this is really much needed. Because automatically already, most things are like male-dominated in general, or patriarchal, I should say. But what I wanted to say about women supporting women, that's like a huge thing that needs to happen. So how women are being treated within our scene, it also depends not just on how men, you know, honestly, like I struggle with this all the time. Like if you get inside my life, I'll talk to you about it. But here I just got a minute to say, but what I mean to say is that I've been trying to do a lot of all-female battles and showcases, and it feels like these progressions are so slow, you know? It feels like women are almost, in my scene, in the strutting and popping scene, we're like 30 years behind the men. I mean, the men are our teachers, but at the same time, like the OGs that I work for, in some respect, they want me in a certain position as a secretary, as I am. I do a lot of graphic design work, and thankfully they do respect me and they do recognize me. You know, they give me that respect. But it doesn't happen to everybody or to all women, and most of the popping and strutting crews are all male. So, like, Playboys Incorporated for the first time got a female, Mylin. BRS got a female for the first time. I'm with BRS basically, and then Media Circus, Fluid Girl, and Ladybug, and those are pretty much the only females that I've seen get into all male crews. So. Yes, the men need to think, okay, if I'm going to do an MC showcase, I need to think about not just inviting one female on this, you know, showcase. I need to think about inviting 5 guys and 5 girls, and let's have a Bonnie and Clyde thing, you know, and let's see what we bring to the table together. And same thing with the popping scene. And the girls need to bring themselves too. And we also, women that are already have been in it, in terms of been in the all-male scene for a while, we need to encourage younger women coming up by training them, inviting them to everything, you know, making them feel comfortable, stuff like that. So I do a lot of groundwork in those respects, and that's how I try to support women. I used to be one of those women that wasn't really into the women. Like, I was in the all-male crew scene, and like, I think around 2009, 2010, that's when I was like, you know what, I need to reach out, I need to support, like, shit needs to change, I'm sick of some stuff, and yeah, that's just how I see it.
Thank you.
So about 8 years ago, I painted this character in this alley called Townsend in the city, and it was the alley that, you know, changes. It's an active alley. It gets repainted every other day, and this character that I painted, it ran for 8 years solid, and I didn't expect that, but everybody painted around it, but the character stayed there, and I didn't even know it was still there. And a 13-year-old girl, she sent me an email basically saying that she was like in a really dark place in her life, and she was thinking about taking her own life, and she was in this alley, and she walked down the alley, and she saw my like strong, powerful Chicana mujer with her pistola and her paint cans and everything, and she said that she saw a reflection of herself in that character that I painted, and it made her feel, you know, powerful as a woman. And I never really, you know, when I painted it, I never thought that someday that piece would change somebody's life and save somebody's life, let alone, you know, just affect somebody like that. So now every time I paint, I kind of really think about how it makes people feel and the message and story I want to leave behind, the legacy. And recently I was on this reality TV show called Street Art Throwdown, and you know, it was whatever, but I wouldn't do it again, but it was fun too. But I didn't realize how many little girls I affected till after the show ran, and like 5, 6, 7-year-olds were sending me photos of them painting up their first piece in their backyard, and like sending me all these like portraits and everything. And I was like, wow, you know, you never really know what kind of impact you have until you start seeing it in little kids. And all my homies are like, that's your 401k, they're gonna be your fans when they grow up and everything. But yeah, just leaving that message behind and just knowing that what you do and what you put out there is a powerful force, and it can really make people feel amazing sometimes, you know, when they need it the most. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
Just going off of what you said, reflections, I think that's a good word because, you know, a lot of times, I mean, even for me growing up, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable being in a room with a bunch of dudes, like, I don't really care that much, but I know that's a struggle. But when I was little, the first person that I saw that really got me, like, caught up in, you know, what is this culture, like, what's going on, like, what is this all about? That was a female MC in Sweden, which I felt like I could relate to because she had a similar background to me, being of a like immigrant background, working class and stuff. But it was from seeing her like going hard as F on TV, and she was just doing her own thing, and that hella inspired me. And honestly, that was the first person that got me into it. So I don't know if I hadn't seen her, like, would I've had, like, gotten into it as early, you know, I probably would have gotten into it at some point, but I mean, that just shows how much, and it's been like a lifelong passion for me pretty much now. So I just think that having female role models is really important within our culture and our communities, because, like, what you were saying, like, you never know what that's gonna do to the little girls watching, like how that's gonna inspire them and make them grow within their arts.
I think when I step into music spaces, the assumption is that I'm a singer or I'm a poet, and that I that I'm not an MC, and that's problematic because then the assumption is that women don't exist in hip hop. I think something else that I find problematic, every woman who MCs doesn't, but I don't like the term female MC. Just because no one goes up to a guy and says, "Are you a male MC?" That just doesn't happen, right? So I mean, I don't want to be genderized in any art form that I do. I'm participating in that art form as a human being and as an artist. And I think the ways that women are recognized positively in hip hop are spaces like this, where we're holding space and having these conversations. And I think that it's important for more panels to happen like this, but also for them to happen with men and women on the panel, because it's a conversation that we need to have with men to educate them on the ways that they should treat us as fellow MCs, and for them to have those learnings. So I spend a lot of time calling out my friends who are male MCs who like to say bitch and all of that stuff in their music, and it's like, well, would you say that to me? Because I'm your homie, and if you wouldn't say it to me, then maybe it shouldn't be in the music. So I think those conversations are important. The last point I want to make is that as far as women MCing goes, it seems like in mainstream music there can only be one at a time. So like, there was Lauryn Hill, well, there was Lil' Kim before Lauryn Hill, then there was Lauryn Hill, and right now there's like Nicki Minaj or Iggy Azalea, whatever, whoever you like, whatever.
Who?
Yeah. Well, she exists though. And so I think like an issue is not only the industry only letting one in at a time, it's that it's this one image that's proliferated at a time. So Nicki Minaj might be a valid representation of a certain group of women, but she doesn't represent all of us. And so for there to be a proper representation, there has to be more than one for us to all feel like we're a part of this.
Amen, all lady. But as far as my experience, like the male and female challenge, like there's definitely been challenges. Like hip hop is kind of, you know, like there's competition. There's like a lot of competitiveness in hip hop, and like Asia One, she has her her organization, No Easy Props, and it's like that's kind of like how it is in hip hop. Like whether you're a guy or a girl, like no easy props. Like you kind of gotta pay your dues and earn your respect. So coming up, like, you know, I felt like I had to earn my respect in the DJ scene, and like over time it got better. And you know, having something like my organization, Scratchpad, that was like my space to create a place for men and women to collaborate and do stuff together. So, you know, that's still my mission, to continue like collaborating with men and women, because there's definitely like, there's always a challenge with like power struggles and energy working together. So just gotta keep it moving. Thank you.
I guess for me, I feel like I've done like a lot of different shows, and it took a lot to get to the point where I feel confident to where I just step in and I don't feel like a female MC, but just an MC. But I think when I was really starting out, as a lot of artists that are female artists that are starting out, you are really held down or very aware of that, like your femininity as almost like this, yeah, like it's a negative thing. That and because like when I first wanted to go battle, I'm not really an experienced battler, but I wanted to try it, and I very rarely seen any women at this particular venue, and so I felt like, oh shit, if I get up there and like I suck, then they're gonna just all think that no females can battle. And so you feel like there's this like a lot of pressure that's with that identity, like I cannot mess this up because there's a lot of other women watching me right now, which is why I think it comes back to that importance of having role models and empowered women around to be that face and of that source of confidence.
I want I always want to piggyback. I'm known for having my 2 cents. But I think representation is very important. And the good thing is having all art forms represented here. I think women's participation in different art forms looks different, right? Because I think sometimes since we don't see DJs as much, so the fact that they're known by their music more than how they look or how they speak or how they're presented sometimes may allow for a greater type of representation or allowance of women to be represented. I think the problem with being an MC, like you said, is the pressure, right? Because there are a lot of whack MCs, but when you know that you're the only woman on a bill, right? Like you said, you feel that if you don't just kill it, right? And the funny thing is we use these very violent terms in hip hop, like kill it, murder it, beat it, right? But if you don't do well, right, then it's a negative reflection on all women. Whereas if a guy gets up and he's horrible, they just wait for the next person, and there's no necessarily connection to all guys being bad. So I think representation is important. And also, as you guys mentioned, audience, right? Having women support women, so we don't always feel like we're under the male gaze when we're in performance spaces, because the energy is different, right? Next question. And you guys have talked about a lot of this, but in terms of empowering girls, right? How do, and I know all of you do specific work, so maybe speak to the work that you do to empower young women and also young men, because we have a responsibility also to be role models, not just for girls, but also young boys, to see positive images of women so they can engage in respectful relationships. So how do you work with the youth to try to not only represent hip hop, but just positivity and collaboration and positive self-image among you?
I do a lot of showcases, and they're usually men and women, and I invite all kinds of people to the showcase. The bottom line is that they're professional. I don't care about their sexual orientation, I don't care about their age, I don't care about their culture, their race. It just, bottom line, the people that I want to perform and present at Oakland Museum in California or San Francisco Public Library or any kind of public institution or kind of event where you have all ages and stuff. Like I said, that's a way for them to interact with each other, learn about, like there's this girl, she's from Russia, her name is Anastasia, she's 19, she does house. And then we got Tuwet, who's been street performing. She's a young black woman, she's one of my favorite street performers. They interact, they learn about each other's movement. I saw them teaching each other stuff. That kind of stuff is always important. And then also for yourself as a woman, in lifting other women, I think for me the problem was growing up in this culture was that a lot of times women always want to know who's the man behind, or people want to know who's the man behind everything, or who's the master, or who's the real deal, like the guy. And women don't see themselves as the real deal, or other women as the real deal. And we need to really start looking at each other. For example, it's been hard for me to explain to women how many years I've been training in strutting. And they think, oh, only the guys do strutting. Agatha may or may not know, but she's under these men. Well, now I'm training women, and I want them to feel confident, not just in me providing training, but also in themselves, that when I represent myself hard, they can when we're together, we're representing ourselves. You're gonna see that physically in a non-verbal sense as we get on stage at 3:30. But yeah, I mean, we need to look up to each other. We need to stop thinking about, okay, I used to invite guys only, or mostly guys, only because in my mind, automatically, I thought of the best men dancers. And now, I go out of my way sometimes, wait a minute, dig deeper, who are the best female dancers for this gig, or whatever. And, let's bring the best girls and girls together, guys and girls together, and share the art form beyond gender. And that's pretty much it.
Well, I was the president of Students for Hip Hop at Cal, and historically there's always been a problem with the like gender inequality. It's a very male-dominated space, and so when I came in, it was really something at the forefront of my agenda to have more representation in there. And so a lot of it was, I was able to achieve that through teaching the two-pot class, which I pretty much always had an even gender balance in. And a lot of it is just one, really being mindful about the space I was creating as a safe space for females to feel like if they did step up, that their voices would be valued, and that if they messed up, that it wouldn't be a representation like that pressure on them, you know, that, and so it was really important for me to establish that space with all of my students, and really just like using that baseline of respect. And a lot of times, females in the cipher, because at the end of every club meeting, we would always open it up to a cipher, and it would just like, there would be nobody speaking, and so a lot of it would just be that active, like, all right, let's hear from the ladies. There's been a lot of male voices in the house, and just having to constantly like invite. And I think that it's, again, it's just like when you're first starting out and you don't have that confidence yet, it's that constant encouragement, really calling out and being very outright, like, let's hear your voice. Everybody wants to hear it. You're going to be respected, and affirm that respect.
Thank you.
So working with youth and doing a lot of community murals, I definitely kind of reiterate that it's not about painting a pretty, beautiful picture, which it is. You know, your can control and your technique is also important, but having, you know, the dialogue and the reference and bringing awareness to an issue through your artwork and how important that is, and reinstilling the warrior culture in our young men. And, you know, by checking each other, when you say a derogatory word, you know, check somebody about that because you care, and breaking down, you know, where that word came from and why it shouldn't be used right now, you know, in our present day times. And I forgot my other point, but just telling a powerful story with your artwork and leaving your message behind, and also helping young people find a voice. And just like I had mentors, you know, I want to give back just like the mentors gave back to me. So just inspiring the youth, young peoples.
Thank you.
I think with hip hop, I mean, it's partly a reflection of our society in general, and you know, I feel like society teaches men to speak up and women to kind of be quiet or be a little more timid. So when it comes to empowering youth, I think sometimes you need to tell the men to just listen and the women to come speak up, you know, and it's tough, but you know, in terms of like being inviting and those kind of things, I think that really helps. For me, I want to, I don't even know if I mentioned it earlier, but I'm also a popper and shredder like Agatha, so we move around in a lot of the same circles. For me, I want to, right now, I'm wanting to connect more with my parents' home country, which is Iran in the Middle East. Over there, you can't, it's pretty much illegal to dance publicly, and men and women aren't supposed to socialize the way we do here. It's very tough, and in terms of hip hop culture, it's all very underground. I've been starting to connect with the Iranian dancers over there, and I mean, I definitely want to see a way to find the women over there to find a spot within hip hop culture, because even there, I mean, everywhere around the world is still male dominated. But I think in a society like that, it would be really, really important to provide that opportunity for the women as well within hip hop culture in that space. As far as over here, I work with Hip Hop for Change. I had an honor to work with them and teach a little bit for the young ladies and the young boys in the schools. And I think that was a dope opportunity too, to just be a female role model next to all these other dancers that might come in that was predominantly male. Just for them to see a female being able to do that too, I think that just opens up the possibility, like, wow, like I could actually do this too, you know? So I think representation is really important as well, and just open up their minds to what's possible.
How to be a professional. So I talk a lot about how do you get your website built and keep it updated. Do you have business cards? It's not just about going to an event and slanging your CD. Do you have a card that you can give people? Are you thinking outside of the box about how to take it into interesting spaces? I work in corporate America and they're not averse to hip hop, but I think that we don't think about bringing it into those spaces. So when we're thinking about monetizing our art, there's money there. So I think that a lot of the work that I do with young people is, if you want to have this as a career and you don't want to sign a 360 deal, how can you live off of your art? You don't have to sign a 360 deal, you just have to understand the business of music and how you can leverage it to your benefit.
Thank you.
With the youth. I do a lot of DJ workshops, and I've taught like after school DJ programs in San Francisco and Berkeley area. And basically, I just try to spread to the youth, like, you know, I came up in Vallejo where like there's not a lot of programs and stuff, so hip hop was an outlet for me. So one of my goals is like to reach out to underprivileged kids also. So like if they can find a voice through hip hop, or like if hip hop can be a vehicle for them to find something else, like as long as they do something fun and positive with their energy, that's what I try to pass down to the youth.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? If you have a question, maybe line up so you can grab it.
Yep. Alright, this is one thing I've always wanted to know from each but everyone, because I know a lot of you guys, I respect a lot of you guys. If you could call out one sister in your element, who would it be and why? I'm seeing a lot of cool battles going on. I'm already thinking, personally I'd love to see KAILA Love versus Little MC on some exhibition styling, that'd be fun. Just saying.
I mean, I think maybe like collaborate with, like work with, or like, yeah, like who would you like to work with, or who in the, I'm gonna rephrase the question, right? So like who in the scene that you're aware of would you like to work with? That's a tough question. Thank you.
Anybody I want to work with, I work with. So you'll see Ryan Nicole later today. She's somebody I've worked with. She's dope. Hayes is in the building. I've worked with Hayes. So I mean, yeah. If I want to work with you, I'll just hit you up and do it.
So I guess I understood maybe the question differently in like a negative sense. Like, so I do want to say, I'm not going to say any names because I'm super shady, but what I wanted to say is that, you know, sometimes I feel like there's women that, you know, don't really support other women, or in this, I've had that experience. The reason I'm so hard right now on supporting women is because when I first came to the Bay, I didn't actually get that support. And you know, I asked, hey, can we session? And they're like, I'm gonna charge you money to, you know, for classes. And it was kind of like some women were untouchable for me, and I didn't want that when I got, you know, good at my game or whatever, got good at strutting and popping. I didn't want to have that untouchability. I actually am open to training anyone that just wants to come and really train. And then obviously the ones that actually come on a regular basis, those are the ones that you can really like work with. You gotta let people do their own thing too. Everyone, you know, they enjoy wherever they are with their all-male crew or whatever. You support each other no matter what, kind of. But I don't know. I mean, I do get negative emotions sometimes. I do get angry sometimes when I see, you know, like I said, when I was growing up and trying to reach out and being told, oh, you gotta pay me to do this, you know, and you gotta, like, and I didn't, so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go fuck with the guys then. I'm gonna go hang out with the guys. And I'm 21 or 17. You know, I first came into it when I was 17. And, you know, then I was with the guys for a long ass time until like 2009, 2010. I met my first females, like, you know, connecting and working with women. Sorry, I use the term females. It's stuck in my head, and people tell me don't use it, but yeah, sorry. I'll try to use women or ladies or something.
No worries. And if you don't want to answer, it's not a question to everyone, so don't feel like you're put on the spot to answer the question, because we have more questions.
Favorite artist, not only is she the best aerosol artist in the world, but she's the best female and the best aerosol artist in the world. Her name is Mad C. And the best thing about painting is you can always get better. Every time you paint with somebody, it's like a dance. You learn something new. Everybody's got different techniques. So yeah, I would love to paint with her someday. She's bad. If you guys don't know about her, check out Mad C. She's amazing.
Good afternoon, ladies. So, upon the discussions that I've heard today, I've been hearing a lot of discussion about that men have been claiming the hip-hop scene. But I'm only 27, and when I was a kid growing up in the hip-hop scene, I remember that women dominated the hip-hop scene, like Salt and Pepper, and all those women groups back in the day. So my question to you ladies is, when do you feel, or where and when do you feel that women have lost their voice in hip-hop? And how do you feel that we can get that back, given the history of hip-hop and the evolution of hip-hop in our generation?
That is a great question.
Yeah, please. One thing that I felt for me personally was problematic was when it came out, or there were rumors that men were writing the lyrics for these MCs who were women. So like, it was rumored that LL Cool J wrote MC Lyte's lyrics, or that Biggie wrote Lil' Kim's lyrics, or that Jay-Z wrote for Foxy Brown. So, I mean, clearly Wyclef did not write for Lauryn Hill, but
it was still said. It was still said.
But you know, but those types of rumors disempower women's voices in hip hop, because you're saying that they're just a vessel for a man's lyrics. So I think that that's one way that women have lost their voice. And I also think that a lot of men in hip hop have proteges. They have men that they bring along, and I haven't seen that pattern with women in hip hop. Yes, there was Salt and Pepper. Yes, there was Queen Latifah. Yes, there was Rod Digger, Lauryn Hill. I can go on, but I don't necessarily see them raising up other women in hip hop so that when they maybe fade to black a little bit or go do something else, there's somebody else to step in and take their place. So I think we lost that inequality because those women maybe had an experience that turned them off to music in general, and they didn't think about bringing in other women, or they just didn't do it. And so, you know, when I'm emceeing, I'm always thinking about who's a young lady that I see with potential that I can put on to open for me or something like that, because that's important. It's important for me to create those spaces for somebody coming behind me.
I actually had CMG of the Conscious Daughters come through to my Tupac class to speak on women in hip hop, and she did this presentation where she went through all the different decades of hip hop, and she showed all the females that were really rampant at the time, like very competitive on the forefronts. And then she was like, look at, we have all this. Then we enter the 90s, which she called the hardcore era, right? And she showed all these women, and then she shows, you know, this new age era, and then she had like Nicki, Iggy, Krayshawn, and then question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. And so I think that if we're looking at kind of this evolution of hip hop, that we have to look at the evolution of that business side as well, and what really happened when hip hop became a business and was taken over by these huge companies, right? Because the way that gender is reflected in that is definitely part of it. You know, that's when we see like the watered down, the corporatization of hip hop, when the songs are just really weak. They're at like 3rd grade reading levels. It all has to do with this industry side, this capitalist force, right? And I think that's definitely playing into why we don't see the representation, because the force is stronger than ever with connections to the music industry and private prisons and all the backdoor deals, the things that we don't hear about. It's more forceful than ever, and I think that it really weeds out. That's the reason why we only have like the one image that represents a portion versus all, because man, they don't want to have us all represented, you know, we would take that over, you know what I'm saying? Like that could be dangerous, but it is necessary. But I think, you know, we have to look at those corporate forces in this.
I'm gonna try to keep it brief. I know my answers are really long. For me and the dance scene and the strutting and popping scene, the thing is like, for the 30, 40 years, whatever, in street dance of like late 60s into now, most things have been male-only crews. And even up until like when I was in an all-male crew, I was doing kind of mascot position. I was like the freestyler. And then all the men did this routine. And I asked to learn it. And I was told by my teachers, you gotta go out there and find some females. I'll train you if you find other women. If you do an all-female crew, basically. And me and my boyfriend, we actually do the same style of dance. And even today, like there's some times where I'll be really open sharing, excited about me and my boyfriend doing stuff, and he's like, well, I think I'm gonna take him, put him with the boys, and you should go with the girls. And so there's like this separation, and then there might be a crew that has like one female, but they just have one female. And they're not generating really a whole bunch of women, they're generating a whole bunch of men. And so I think there needs to be a lot more Bonnie and Clyde, not just like the token female, you know what I mean, of the group, like Fergie or whatever, you know, and they're in that position where they're like the front runner or whatever. But you gotta have really generating a lot of women, like, and I think it's happening, it's coming. It's like, I'm seeing a lot more women on the scene. We're going to LA OG Poppers picnic next week. And there's a lot of females that come and we all battle each other, and it's so much fun. And every year there's more women. And if you create all-female battles or showcases, that's a way to generate. And you have to do both. You have to do also generating these all-female things, and you also have to do these Bonnie and Clyde things. And then there's this bridge in this passage that goes between, you know, this more male-dominated thing, then there's Bonnie, Clyde, and then the women need to be developed, and then, yeah. Anyways.
Thank you.
So a lot of times in the graffiti world, when you see a girl painting, there's a lot of assumption made by other writers that, oh, her boyfriend taught her, or she, you know, she must have learned from a dude, or oh, that her boyfriend probably filled in her piece and outlined it for her, you know? And people are shocked, and you're like, no, I learned from myself, you know, or I learned from just other people around me. And a lot of times back in the day, I didn't know that there were so many other female writers. And I didn't actually until I met the girl outside who was painting. Her name's Dime. She invited me to go paint with her crew because she was like, I'm one of the few female writers in my crew. Can you come and, you know, give me support? And so we did a lot of female productions together, just, you know, small time. And then in 2011, we found out that there was this huge all-female wall that was being painted in West Oakland. And we couldn't find it. We searched for like 6 hours, you know, just driving around West Oakland. And, you know, she gave up. And finally I found it and I called her out and I was like, it's here, let's go. And we collaborated with the other females. And we had such an amazing time painting. It was like over 20 girls from all over the country. Then we decided to be a crew. And from that day on, you know, it's like all these advertisements around us are there to like force feed us who our culture is and who we are. And, you know, putting your own message out there and your own art and your own images is basically reclaiming public space and taking back what's ours, you know, and saying to the world that we have our own culture. We don't have to, you know, buy an iPad to be a real person, you know, or whatever it is. So just reclaiming who we are.
I wanted to say one thing. and we'll get to the questions. You guys make a great point about in terms of the evolution of hip hop. There was this time where things were so controlled by corporations that it stifled a lot of creativity, but we have an era now where we don't have to go, like you say, you don't have to sign a 360 deal. If you learn the business and your craft, you can make your own website, you can post videos, you can do things independently, independent hip hop, and you don't need to go through whatever oppressive channels exist, and I think that's where the evolution is gonna happen. I think we have to understand that mainstream is always only gonna allow certain representations. But as we start to not depend on mainstream to be the carriers of our culture, one, we won't be so concerned about what's on BET or MTV or VH1 and start getting back into where the people actually exist in the culture instead of having it fed to us. So I think in terms of evolution, I think that's where it's going. We have so many young people who are just so talented, like the Resurrectors who came up here, those two young sisters who just killed it, right? And they're not on MTV, but they're here. Right? So then we have the responsibility to support them wherever they are, or whatever young people, wherever they are.
Thank you. That was hella tight. A, I'm like so touched by a lot of stuff y'all said. Thank you. I have a question, but I'm gonna preface it with this. My name is Amani. Me and a few other girls, we have an open mic sister cipher. We made it because we felt it was necessary. We were at another cipher, and it just was a lot of stuff that just led to us having to create our own space. In that building that, we wanted it to be like non-competitive as far as like artists on artists, especially women on women, like we're all women. So we wanted it to be like, you know, you should only be really competing with yourself and growing, developing as yourself and like pushing your own boundaries, and we just want to be supporting that. A lot of things that come up throughout our journey is like this idea of a box that's shaped around us, right? The Fed culture, right? And we constantly find ourselves in situations and discussing like, how are we reacting to certain situations, specifically in the cipher? Like, are we coming from a place within the box that keeps us like scared or not confident enough to be like, F that? Or are we operating outside of it? And what does operating outside of it look like? So if you can like understand what I'm trying to say, like, can you give me your own interpretation of like what operating outside that box looks like for you?
That's a good question.
That's how I gotta think about a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
I like that question.
I think what comes to me is like sticking to your vision. Like if you feel a calling and you feel a purpose and you're passionate about it, I say keep going, keep offering something for the community because it'll grow. As long as you keep like building it, it'll grow.
The way I'll answer that question is, there came a point for me where I was going to these events, and I do almost every medium of performance, sing, MC, do poetry, and I was going to these events and I was noticing like, there's very talented people here, and I can be a better version of myself. So like the fear to get up and perform didn't necessarily come from this person is better than me. It came from I'm not the best version of myself. And so I had to ask myself, what can I do to become the best version of myself? Because it's not just gonna drop down out of the sky. And I also felt like I got as far as I could go from being around people and having just people teach me who were in the neighborhood or in my network. And so I applied to Berklee College of Music because I felt like this is how I'm gonna get to my next level. So I think that when you're trying to hit your next level, not being afraid of the academia of music is really important. So, you know, I'm leaving the Bay this fall to go to Berklee. And I encourage everybody to take a step in the direction of learning the academics of your craft.
So last year, I got invited to go to Senegal to paint in a festigraph. It's like a 2-week festival where you paint a new wall every day and they have like concerts and everything. But anyways, going out there really opened my mind to just, well, basically I would see, there was like kids out there that were only painting for 1 or 2 years. And you know, they only had limited amount of colors, of not the best quality of paint, and like they only had fat caps. When I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do, you know? But seeing them just like kill it with, you know, very limited resources made me just kind of realize how privileged we are to have a wide selection of colors and every kind of tip you could ever imagine, and just seeing them just work extra hard with limited resources just made me really appreciate everything that we have access to, and just how important it is to, you know, evolve with your art.
I just wanted to say real quick, I think right now the next level and the next step, kind of going off of what she was saying, is taking it abroad. And there's some groups like All the Way Live, and they've been to for the last 10 years, they've gone to the Philippines and Nicaragua, and now they're going to Nepal and Thailand. And I think not just, I mean, there's still work that obviously needs to be done here, but there's both of that. I think you need to be really conscious about who you're inviting consistently to your events or as you organize, and really encouraging those people that really need support to come out. And then also getting involved with, I don't really know much about Hip Hop for Change, honestly, but I do know that they go into schools and stuff like that. I think that in itself is just going deeper and thinking outside of the box in that sense of, you know, this privileged culture that we kind of have in the States. And I'm from Poland, my family's from Poland, I'm also an immigrant, and honestly, like, people don't know what they have, you know, until they like go outside of the States sometimes. So yeah, just spreading the culture outside of the States, and setting those little seedlings, you know. And I think it's really awesome that NILO's going to Iran and just gonna try to search, and that's what you do. You gotta search those people that are into hip hop and generate and grow, and that's all I have to say.
Hello, my name is Kiev, and this is more of an imaginative question for people who appreciate hip-hop, music in general. If you could pick 2 rappers, singers, or both to collaborate on an album, which 2 would you pick?
It's a good question also. I'll repeat the question. The question was, if you could pick 2 rappers or MCs or singers to collaborate with, who would you pick? And of course, probably why. And for those that don't MC, just anyone in the culture that you would collaborate with. Because this is in terms of thinking outside the box, right?
Well, I'm going to say one would be Lisa Left Eye. Rest in peace.
All right.
Because I mean, I think that she spoke on the industry. She was a rebel. She was like Tupac in a lot of ways, even in terms of her flow. The fact that they were both Geminis. She had a prophetic vision. She was very spiritually in tune, politically in tune. Just in her intuition was just unbelievable. And just like the eerie circumstances on how she left this world, like. It's just really crazy. Her documentary, The Last Days of Lisa Left Eye. I mean, I think that she saw hip hop as something that was extremely spiritual, and I think that that was always very present in her music. And I think that collaborating on that level is just a higher sense of consciousness. And I feel like she would be really doing a lot in the space today if she had the opportunity to live on and do that. So that's somebody that I always keep very present in my mind, in my artwork.
For me, I kind of jock the people in my community hella hard. There's a lot of mainstream artists and stuff, or people that are more, but for me, like, there's this girl, Angel McNeil from New York. She's this African-American girl. And for me, she has superseded popping in beyond her gender. I mean, she hits really hard. And in popping, you know, we hit like that. And she just hits like harder than most guys I've seen. And she just like blows my mind away. I would love to work with her. But yeah, I totally, like, you see my Facebook page, I'm always jockeying people in the community 24/7. And I think that's what you gotta do. You gotta support, you know, people from the ground up and people that are around you in the local community.
I think for myself, if I can go a little, I guess a little off topic, I would want to work with my mom, which is, I don't know, I mean, she's not within the culture specifically, but because for me, I really want to explore the idea of hip hop and identity. That to me has been something like just constant from the time that I was a child. And I had, so I had a lot of identity, I had like my little identity crisis and whatnot, being like minority and in a very interesting country. And you know, my mom is definitely part of my identity. And part of that is also that I am a dancer. My mom is, she's tetraplegic, which means that she's disabled and she's differently able, I would like to say. So she's very limited in her movements. And, but to me, you know, that doesn't limit her in her dancing. She has always been a beautiful dancer even before the accident that caused this. And one of my long-term projects that I want to do is to go back home to where she is. She's in Sweden, and to collaborate on a piece with her and see what we can do in terms of exploring our Iranian roots and dancing beyond, you know, beyond our bodies.
We got one more question.
Oh, I just wanted to say, since I was young, I always wanted to collaborate with Anita Tiju. And a couple years ago, I actually got to host a mixtape and DJ on it. And she was for Suna Metrica, her record label. So I actually got to, you know, collaborate with one of my favorite artists. But something I would love to see is something, you're one of my favorite MCs, Dom Jones. So that would be sick to make a collaboration over here. And then there's two vibrations in life, you know, light and sound. And for me, when they come together, it's just like an explosion of synesthesia. And so I love making music videos, and I've gotten to collaborate with some of my favorite MCs like Mad Lines, making music videos for her, and just, yeah, I love y'all.
Hi, thanks for everything. Thanks for being here. My name is Emily Felicia, and I guess the question I have is, how can we think outside of a binary model, as far as like male and female only, right? You know, and just thinking about how heteropatriarchy, like hyper-masculinity is, you know, affects us in so many different spaces, right? Whether it's hip hop, whether it's I'm a cyclist who is cycling, you know, or just just, you know, everywhere, right? Heteropatriarchal, like hyper-masculinity is very, you know, oppressive. And so how can we create a space not only for women, but in hip hop, but also women-identified folk, queer folk, trans folk as well, you know, because they're also, you know, so how can, and do you know any spaces like that? Because I was sitting here and I was like trying to think, you know, like, yeah, cool, like outside of that binary model, right? You know, outside of just male, female, and thinking about like female-identified folk and queer trans. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, I mean, you actually said it in your question, but one of the things is that you really need to actively, I mean, our scene, the dancing which I'm speaking for, it can be very heterosexual, very, you know, besides being, you know, male dominated or whatever, it's also very straight culture, and people aren't reaching out enough. You really need to, as an organizer, really actively reach out to all the queer dancers. If you hear about a gig, you know, partially because queer people can teach everyone so much, and not just queer people, but what I'm saying is that queer people can teach the straight world kind of, or the straight dominated culture so much about, you know, for example, voguing and whacking, you know? It's not a feminine style of dance. It's a very fierce, strong, powerful, it's a gay male dance that transcends very much, in my opinion, beyond the gender of male or female. And so we learn from queer people, you learn from, but you have to really reach out, because right now, and it's good you brought that up, because we're always talking about male and female, and we need to empower women, We really, 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 really need to empower the queer community in the hip-hop culture.
A couple months ago, one of my youth, transgender, her name was Aubrey Marico. I don't know if anybody worked with her here. She really taught me a lot, and unfortunately a couple months ago she jumped off the Golden Gate and took her own life. And so one of the things we talked about a lot was just that, like, even though her family didn't accept her, and that was part of the reason why she did what she did, was the fact that you can choose your own family in this life. And that, you know, that is a powerful thing, just the fact that, you know, we choose our own family, and just keeping that family feeling alive and supporting each other through every element possible.
Like I said, I like to explore just hip-hop and identity, and I think part of that definitely comes under that overall theme. It makes me hella upset to hear that someone was unhappy or whatever was going on in their life to where you know, it would lead to that. I'm very sorry to hear that. I think that our responsibility as being in hip-hop culture is not to allow that to happen. This is supposed to be a safe space for anyone, you know? And I'm really frustrated when I hear people being uncomfortable in certain spaces when it comes to anything hip-hop. Like, I hear people saying, like, even my friends, sometimes if we go to B-boy jams or something like that, it can sometimes be a little overwhelming with all the throwing dicks in people's faces, and I'm sorry, that happens. And you know, like that, the whole like overwhelming sense of masculinity in the room, it can get a little like, okay, I need to go out and like just breathe a little bit, you know. But I mean, at the same time, I'm very drawn to certain aspects of it, but. I just feel like this is our culture. We should provide a safe space for anyone that's in it, and you shouldn't have to be worried about who you are. You should be able to embrace who you are when you're here.
I think that until we see all of our struggles as connected, then we're going to remain divided. Oppress, touch everybody. And so, you know, it's been interesting existing in the States while people are celebrating the right to marry for everyone, but churches are burning in the South. And so, you know, the question is like, these are not necessarily separate struggles. These are human beings being oppressed. And so, until we can all relate to the pain that everybody feels by oppression, then, you know, we can't expect everybody to celebrate the victories either. And so I think that we need to find the intersections of oppression and struggle.
I mean, I just feel like hip hop is following up on that. Hip hop is one of those places where you can claim your identity, but it also transcends boundaries. Because in all of the elements, I've constantly seen that happen. And one way I try to make my space more inclusive is to go out directly into, like vagina monologues, and I'd be doing work with women and queer women and trans women and learning about where they come from and how they see their identity and how they voice their identity. And then they'd be doing my hip hop thing, and so I was able to bring a lot of women that would probably never enter hip hop from vagina monologues into the hip hop scene, and then vice versa, like women that weren't maybe as in touch with their feminine side to come around to vagina monologues. So I think that the presence in multiple spaces and constantly being that bridge to bring those spaces together and constantly around that safe space, that acceptance, that encouragement. We want to hear your story and validating those stories, knowing how to treat people the way that they want to be treated and what that looks like in hip hop. And I think that hip hop is a platform that that transcends those boundaries and allows that happen.
Thank you. Let's give all the panelists another round of applause. And I think we're going to kick it back to the DJ, and we're going to get the next performer of ASAP. So stick around.